Welcome. In this video, several families share their experiences of caring for their child at home, including handling the medical needs, getting comfortable leaving the house, involving older siblings, and how they built their own village of supporters. While each family is different, they share their unique perspectives and experiences in cultivating a fruitful life for them and their child.
You know, if you're going home, then that's obviously good news. It's this huge accomplishment to finally go home, but then it's equal parts draining and confusing.
My son's pediatrician, I remember she advised us to act with him as a normal kid because she encouraged us to go out with him.
As I was going home with my son that day, waiting for my spouse to drive around, and when he pulled up, I said, they're really just going to let us walk out of here with him, huh? Because I was that afraid.
We were driving home. There's so many potholes in Boston, and I was holding the car seat like this because I was so afraid like any jostling was gonna pop the trach out. Even though I knew that wasn't going to happen, I was just like, I want to bubble wrap you.
The trach doesn't stop her from trying to do anything any other child would do.
I thought caring for a child with a trach meant we would live in this bubble, we would be at the doctor's every day. And there were times where we were at the doctor's multiple times a month, but it really just turned out to be everyday life, but with the trach.
At first, everything can be new and even a little scary. You need to learn the equipment and get used to the roles and responsibility of caring for your child. It may be hard to imagine now, but with a little time and practice, you will become an expert in caring for your child.
The first few weeks when you come home from the hospital are very stressful. You're on your own and you have to rely on all of the skills and the knowledge that they taught you during your inpatient stay. And you really have to be confident at discharge.
So I think my expectations were that it would be impossible to do. I am not a very medically minded person, and I remember thinking there is no way I will ever remember all the information I learned in the hospital.
For many, the first trach change at home is a big milestone. Sometimes it goes smoothly, sometimes there are bumps, but you will get through this.
The first trach change is very nerve-wracking. You're used to doing it in the hospital with a team of experts, hip to hip, to help you. Now you're home and it's all you.
So I was like, okay, it's just you and me. I talked to her and I said, this is what we need to do. And I started singing to her lullabies and I did it and it was fine. I was like, okay, I can do this.
So our first trach change did not go great. We knew what to do. We had all of the tools that we needed. It just was, Ellis was crying and I didn't expect his crying to really stress us out as much as it did. The next time we asked one of our nurses to be present when we did the trach change. And so then as soon as we had a few successful trach changes with our nurse, she kind of was like, you know what, I'm not going to do this with you anymore. You're on your own. You know, we did great after that.
Whoever my partner is for the trach change, we verbalize each step. Who's doing it. We check that we have all of the materials that we need. Everything is in working order, and then you just have to do it. And once you do your first one, you feel so proud of yourself. You feel so much better, and it just gets easier each time you have to do it.
So we would sing the same songs for trach care and trach changes. Let's say if we were changing the trach, we would sing, you know, that alphabet song, A, You're Adorable. So that would be the song. And we'd have everything set up and we'd start singing it and we'd sit him down and we would do it. And he loved it. He had, again, the huge smile.
For the first trach change, we worked as a team, as a good team. Everybody was scared, but we had to do it. That was scary, but we did it. It's not a very easy experience, but we did it.
My wife had one role during the trach change and I had a role during the trach change, and we'd always do it together. And so we built that like consistency and we both felt really confident in what we were doing.
Within time, you will become an expert in changing the trach, suctioning, and all the medical needs your child requires at home.
There's going to be a mucus plug, trach's going to pop out. You're going to have to put it back in. You know, like there's just going to be things that are going to come up, and unfortunately, they're just unavoidable.
I remember one time I was on the phone and I realized I had suctioned him with one hand. And I remember a nurse had told me, one day you're going to do everything with one hand and you're not going to believe that you could do that. And I was kind of like, oh, yes, I got it.
Getting out of the house can be a big deal when you have a child who requires medical equipment and supplies. It can also be challenging to find confidence in yourself when things don't go so well.
So I think at the beginning we did miss out on a lot.
And I was getting a little stir crazy in the house, and I was very intimidated by the idea of leaving the house.
It's true, we have to. Because by keeping him in our home 24/7 won't help him. So we're gonna have to brave curiosity and go out with him.
Like, just do it once and you'll feel so much better about it. You just have to get over the hump and just rip the Band-Aid off and do it. The suction machine fit right underneath the stroller. He got fresh air, I got fresh air, I got some exercise, and it's like, it's not a big deal. I can do this, I can do this.
Our first real outing was to go to a birthday party at one of my friend's house. And I felt like this is normal. Like, I have my newborn baby in my wrap. I did have a suction machine right next to me, but it just felt like we were doing something that we would have done regardless of the trach. I think that's when I was like, okay, we can do this.
She loves to do everything. She loves to rollerblade. She loves to be in her scooter. She likes to be in the water. She knows that she can't go above her belly button. She just loves to play, loves to smile, loves to sing and dance.
My wife had to take her for the first trip out of the house to a doctor's appointment. The feeding tube broke in the car. Sophia had a blowout. We were 20 minutes late to the doctor's appointment, and like anything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And in hindsight, it's super funny. Like, we still laugh about it. But like, as you start to kind of figure out how long it takes to pack up and to get to places, you start to get better at it.
So in our case, leaving the house is a big effort. Mary is trach and vent dependent. It takes 2 to 3 hours every morning to get Mary all ready and do everything we need to do in order to leave the house. So if we're gonna do something, we do evaluate, is this something Mary's really gonna enjoy?
When you are out in the community, many children and adults may be curious, but may not know how to ask about your child's trach.
We went to the playground when kids were like, what is that? And then Big Brother will explain, oh, my brother has a trach, that's for him to breathe. We will let Big Brother to explain that to the other kids because he was proud of his brother.
She's always smiling, always smiling. So they would look at her with like compassion and she would smile back. So they would just return her smile. And some people would ask, why does she have a trach? And explain to like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. But it wasn't never like anything negative. It was more positive.
Especially kids have a curiosity and want to know like what this thing is on your child's neck. And we basically just started like preemptively talking about it and making it kind of just a normal part of the interaction to help people understand like, hey, this is meant to help our daughter breathe.
I think I spent a lot of time being mama bear and snapping at people. But then I realized some people just don't know what to say. So I started just being like, this is Ellis. He has a trach. His vocal cords are paralyzed, and trying to like ward off any of the negative, and not even mean negative, just negative comments that would come through.
And they always had a lot of questions about his feeding tube and about him eating and how he ate. And so I turned it into his superpower. And I said, you know, what's really cool about Ivor is that, you know how your mom probably makes you eat broccoli and peas and all that, you know, like green stuff? And they're like, yeah, it's so gross. I said, well, the magic power that Ivor has is that it just goes all through his tube and he just eats it and never tastes it. And so kids just would be like, wow, especially when they're little, like, that is so cool. And so I turned it into his superpower instead of having it be something that made him different from everyone else.
For those families with older siblings, preparing them and helping them interact with their brother or sister safely is very important.
And when Aurora was born, Luciana, she had just turned 3, and she would ask why we would need to put it on, why we need to take it off. She would ask me if she could actually do it herself. And I'm like, no, you can't do it. But here, you can pass mommy the sponges, you can pass me the ties, can you throw this away? So she was very much aware and made sure she was aware of what was going on with her.
Our older daughter really wanted to help with cares and like be part of the process. And so the Child Life team gave us some bears with trachs and feeding tubes on them. And so we were able to have her do cares with her animal while we were doing cares with our other daughter.
I always allowed for my older boys to be involved in everything. So they wanted to teach their friends at school how to work some of his medical equipment, and they were able to bring things in for the school for his classmates to see what was going on at home and describe different procedures that were happening. And I think that really helped my children.
My older boys were really concerned that they weren't going to be able to play with Michael the way they envisioned, and they were afraid that they would do something to hurt him. So on a Saturday, they had me bring the boys in, and they laid down like one of those gymnastics mats, and we all got down on the floor with Michael, and they showed the big boys like how they could play and how Michael, even though he was only 2 months, he's still a baby, just like any other baby. And he's going to want to interact, and he's going to want to be held and talked to and played with. And that made the big boys feel so much more comfortable. And that made me feel so much more comfortable because my kids were happy and they felt safe around their brother.
That thing is very important to him, to help him breathe in, because you will be your blood protector. So you're gonna have to watch him, and then he learned so fast. So with the new trick, when he was crying, we couldn't hear. So he will come get us to tell us baby is crying, because he was a member of our team, our home care team.
I mean, I got to see my older daughter, like she learned how to take care of him. And it was just such a great teaching opportunity too, I mean, when my friends would have kids, my daughters would be like, where are their trachs?
Building your home care team and having support from family and friends is very important. People who can help with errands, help with older siblings, and help to just sometimes give you a break.
We unfortunately belong to a special club that none of us wanted to join, but we're here and we're all here to support each other.
The whole reason why I'm so passionate about this project is you build your village, and that village does not look like what you thought it was going to look like.
My mom was amazing. She couldn't do trach stuff, but she always wanted to just be there, and she would come with me anywhere. Granted, there's nothing they could do if I had to pull over to the side of the road and suction him. Sometimes it's really nice to have another set of hands, especially when you're trying to wrangle a suction machine and a diaper bag and a stroller and a first aid kit, because you never know what's going to happen.
If you have family, if you have friends around who you can train and call on to just do a couple hours while you take a nap and a shower, that's fantastic. And I do have a village of people around me who I can call on a little bit more, where I can say, hey, can you come over and watch while I take a nap? That kind of thing.
My stepdaughter, who had trained in the hospital so that Aurora could come out of the hospital, because my husband just couldn't deal with anything that had to do with Aurora because he almost fainted. And so she stepped up. So it was my stepdaughter, the nurse, and myself.
My uncle and his wife have been ER nurses for the past 40 years. So about once a month, they'll come over, and they're pretty much the only people we feel comfortable leaving Fallon alone with. So about once a month, we'll get out of the house for a couple of hours.
It may take some time, but one message that these parents want to emphasize is that you can do this.
Because I was that afraid. But if I could talk to that person in that moment, I would say, and you're going to be fine. You know all the things to do. You're going to learn your child. You'll know him so well that you'll know when he's in trouble. You'll know when he needs help. You'll know when he's doing great. I would say it's going to be okay.
I remember all the doctors telling me, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. And I didn't believe them. And so I think maybe listening to those doctors a little bit more and learning, and like I said, this is just your new normal, and that there's something really wonderful about it. It's very special.
Rewind to a year ago, I don't ever imagine my life in this situation. And you think about all of the things that you're now able to do for your child. There has to be a recognition of wow, look how far we've come and how well we're able to care for our child at home and to keep her home and keep her safe.
Boiling it all down, I would just say embrace it. There's going to be some really beautiful moments in all of it. You're going to feel like such a freaking badass parent, taking care of your kid.
I would tell myself to close my eyes, take a deep breath, and just know with a certainty that nobody loves my baby like I do, and nobody knows him like I do, and nobody is going to feel the way about him that I do. And all of those things makes me the best possible person to care for him.
The vision that we had for our family has definitely changed over the years, but it's still our family. It's our life. It's our daughter. And, we try to take advantage of every day that we have with Mary, that she is changing the world, her little person, showing so many different people what she has to offer. And it's really just unconditional love.